Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggled as a strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
the legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggled as a
The
strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
All right, welcome back to Nigeria's most compelling breakfast show, Global Morning. We're still looking at the big issues making the rounds in Nigeria's National Daily. I've got in the studio John Oba, who is a veteran journalist and also a current affairs analyst. Will be helping us to look at other issues playing out in Nigeria. John, nice to have you in the studios.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Good morning.
All right, let's look at, we'll begin with, I think we've got the Daily Trust up next for review. Let's see what the Daily Trust has in store for us. It says confusion over contradictions in CTC of appeal court judgment sacking Kanu government. It's a typographical error. Gawon's council APC chieftain says only Supreme Court will interpret it, says Governor Yusuf's lawyer. That's one of the headlines there. Then we've got reps indict MPA, NMPC, NBET, others over 14 trillion naira contingent liabilities. We've got Osun governor spends 2 billion naira on meals, welfare, runs office with 6 billion naira in 3 months. That's amazing. Then uproar in Senate over minority leadership seats is another big story there from the Daily Trust. All right, I saw you nodded your head, John, when we talked about Osun government spending as much as 6 billion in 3 months for running the office and other amounts. For you, the state government, would you say, especially when you hear also that they still owe their civil servants, but they spend this large chunk of money?
Well, this is not new. It's just that we are bringing it up this time around. It has been just like that. If you scrutinize each of the states, you discover that this is what they've been doing. Also, Punch reported about Lagos State spending 3 billion to buy perfume. This is what you see in most of the states. That is why we say that we need someone who feels the pulse of the citizens. Most of the leaders we have now, they are not leaders, they are rulers who don't care. All they care about is just their personal well-being. There are frivolities everywhere. That's what you see in most of the state government. They are among the governors that are ruling us now. So it's not new. It's something, it's common.
Okay, let's look at the other big story. Reps indict NMPC, MPA, MBET for contingent liabilities totaling as much as 14 trillion naira. Would you say the reps, rather than indict these people, the reps, we know that they have, lawmakers have work oversight function. Would you say it means they also are not doing their jobs?
They are invariably indicting the former the night assembly, because it's just like saying that you've not done well, because ordinarily they have committee that supervises these agencies. Yeah. So they should oversee what is going on and should know time to time when they're supposed to remit some of these funds and then go after them. So what they are doing now, they are just exposing their deficiency in their own duty.
Okay, well said. And we've got uproar in the Senate over minority leadership seats. We saw that yesterday was a big one, especially when it came to Abamoro and co. For you, were you surprised all that played out in the National Assembly?
Well, I think they are just reaping what they sow.
Okay.
Because that was what we saw during the general election, and that is what is playing out now at the National Assembly. Ordinarily, the Senate president should have allowed them to vote and elect whoever they wanted. But he just picked someone and announced this thing. So you see that when you don't get it right from the beginning, you keep getting it wrong at every level of governance.
But what would this mean to them legislating right policies and laws for the country?
You have seen very serious divide. And when it comes to issue of making laws, whatever does not concern them don't get the attention. So that is what is going to keep happening.
So the interest of the Nigerian populace
is not their business.
Very sad commentary there. Let's move on to the Vanguard newspaper. Is up next. Quickly, let's look at what the Vanguard says. Why insecurity is not going away yet, says service chiefs. We've got Rivers crisis is the kicker. 2 factional assembly lawmakers hold separate sittings as governor. FCTA officials gave me fake C of O, says Wike. That's a very interesting story there. As governor, FCTA officials gave me fake C of O. Then Senate in rowdy session over leadership position. Federal government revokes 1,633 solid mineral licenses. We've seen that, and we've got other stories. Overturning Kano, Zamfara, Plateau voters' decision in court unacceptable, says Obasanjo. Let's look at Obasanjo saying that overturning the people's mandate in Plateau, Zamfara, and Kano not unacceptable.
Well, I don't think it's something we should be surprised about, because if they could do that at the presidential election, and then what do you expect?
When you say do that at the presidential election?
Where we all know the will of the people. We all know what Nigerians desire. But the court gave the election to who they wanted. So if you are not talking about the state, for me, I just felt that APC is now using the judiciary to achieve what they could not achieve during the general election. So now they are now using the judiciary to upturn the will of the people. That is what is happening. And it's going to spell a very bad consequences on the judiciary, because it's eroding the trust that the ordinary masses have on the judiciary. So you can imagine that the country is facing a whole lot on every side. Question of corruption, question of injustice, and question of the will of the people being overturned at will. But they came up to say that was not what they desire. I mean, they determined that it was a typographical error, and so you can imagine in a case like this,
a very sensitive case,
a very sensitive case, and then you can come up and say a typographical error. What will you say about issue of criminality and now someone who is coming to the court to be able to save his life? And that means that the typographical error will also determine his fate.
A very sad commentary there. Let's quickly go to the blueprint as we tend to wrap up our discourse quickly. Blueprint is next with the headline that says federal government will boost blue economy with $10 billion for shipping, says Oyetola. Is the big headline there. Federal government boost the blue economy with $10 billion for shipping is the big headline there. We've got solid minerals. Okay, we've dealt with that. Help return us to our land. Displaced Bassa people of total beg. Tinubu help restore us back to our land. And vandalization is the kicker. Over 5,000 kilometer pipelines no longer working, says NMPCL. Then we've got this interesting headline at the bottom. It says law compelling INEC to upload result on the way, says Senate. Law compelling INEC to upload results on the way, says the Senate. You can find that interesting story on page 6 of the paper. Then Nigeria loses 3.5 trillion naira annually to post-harvest losses, says Action Aid. All right, let's look at this before we call it a wrap. Law compelling INEC to upload results on the way, says Senate. Is this long overdue?
Well, it's long overdue, and I was thinking that the Electoral Act should settle that.
Okay.
But we can just see how INEC itself has already sabotaged the Electoral Act. And so we need a law that we compare.
When you say INEC sabotage?
Yes, the Electoral Act, because INEC is not really obeying his own law. He's not obeying his own law. So we need a law, we need a bill that will make them to make it something strictly that they should obey. So that we all have, because that is the genesis of all this we are hearing, we are seeing now.
The tribunals.
The tribunals, and because most of the election results are not transmitted by, online. So everybody just come up, write whatever he wants, and then give INEC, and INEC will announce it. We see that in play. So we need a law that will compel INEC strictly to transfer results through the Bermuda this thing that is what the federal government paid for. They should use it.
All right, I think we've got, my producer says we do one more paper. We've got the Nigerian Tribune up next for quick review. We've got Insecurity is the kicker of the first headline on Nigerian Tribune. Service chiefs blame judiciary for freeing suspect. Very sketching attack there. Insecurity, service chiefs blame judiciary for freeing suspect. Very worrying headlines there coming from Nigerian Tribune. We've got other big stories. Let's see. Minority leadership. Leadership seats is the kicker. Senate in rowdy section. LP cakes. Why I approved Naira redesign, says Buhari. Is a big talking point there. Why I approve the Naira redesign. You can find that on the Nigerian Tribune. Find out why Buhari approved that. Then we've got reps approved $73.69 as oil benchmark for 2024 fiscal year. Lagos government didn't finance and will lose a legal battle, says Commissioner. Then PDP lost local government poll in Ogun because I rejected plots to bribe police. INEC and INEC says Obasanjo. PDP lost local government poll in Ogun State because I rejected plots to bribe police, and INEC says Obasanjo. Let's get to the last take.
That is worrisome. That is worrisome, because if Obasanjo can raise this issue, it means that it shows the rot that we were just talking about in INEC. If Obasanjo can raise this, that means that all we've been seeing and all we've been hearing as essay is true. That because we cannot dispute what Obasanjo is saying, that you have to pay now. That means that our INEC now is pay cash and carry.
All right, a very sad commentary there. Thank you. I want to say a big thank you to John Oba for joining me in the studio today and helping us look at the stories making the rounds in Nigeria's national dailies. It's a pleasure having him in the studio because he says it as it is. John, thanks a lot and hope to see you more often.
It's my pleasure. Thanks.
All right, you're still watching Nigeria's Finance Breakfast Show, Global Morning on Global Television. I will go for another quick break. When we return from the break, we'll be going full blast as we discuss addressing insecurity in Nigeria, looking at the reps and the service chiefs interface and the implications of that interface is what we'll be discussing in the next segment of the program. Stay with us.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rate as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASIS strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Welcome to Global Morning.
toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rate as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASI strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
the legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rate as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASI
The
strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
All right, welcome back from the break. We're loaded this morning with the best minds in the African continent just to ensure that you're well educated and given the right information. Now I've got another guest in the studio. He's not a person, but the president of civil society groups for good governance in Nigeria, one of the foremost civil society organizations in Nigeria, and he is the president. He's not a person but Chief Ogaku Dominic. He's in the studio looking elegant and looking like a true African. Nice to have you in the studio.
Good morning, Mamodu.
All right, let's look at addressing insecurity in Nigeria. The reps and the service chiefs had an interface before now. Last week, they sent their representatives who were turned down. But the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, made very damning, revelations. One of them, let's begin with good governance, because I know that's where you hold sway. He said any country with good governance, criminality is reduced by half, and the military does 30% of it. Is this a very strong message to the present administration and probably past administrations, because we've never had someone like Brutai make this kind of very revealing comments?
You know the truth, Mamodu, and this is what we have been saying. Issues of insecurity and the rest are pointers to bad leadership, to poor performance, to lack of accountability, to a state that is drifting towards anarchy, to lawlessness, and to the rest of it. We are not saying there are no insecurities in places where people offer good governance. But you see, like you rightly mentioned, more than 50% of the job must have been done through good governance. First, what's our procurement process like? Even when we want to procure security equipment, most of these resources end up in the pockets of the administrators. And so, you see, the thing boils down to good governance. It boils down to good governance. And I'm happy that he was able to come out very strong. That's to give a direction as to, if you want us to deliver on the issue of insecurity, you too, you must play your part. You must be responsible, you must be accountable, you must be committed, you must show transparency in all regard. I think that's basically what you're saying. All right, so let's get another very interesting comment he made. He said the prison warders have been, the Boko Haram suspects who were drilled in the Northeast revealed that the prison warders collide with them to transfer monies to their colleagues outside the prison yards, and the money is being shared 50-50. And this is what they use in committing these other crimes, by financing terrorism from the prison yards. How disturbing is this? And we thought there was a reshaping of our correctional services. The truth of the matter is our prison operations, or our correctional operations, are very porous, very, very porous. And these are very serious security breaches, because you see, you have all manner of people there. There's a lot of compromise. Part of the challenge is that prison warders are not well taken care of. So they themselves, they have been corrupted, they have been compromised in so many ways. And you see, it becomes more disturbing, especially when it's coming from a top security apparatus like the military, trying to tell you exactly this. That's to tell you that there's so much compromise going on. And it's not something that we can solve in one day, in one swoop. Because the prison warder also wants to make money.
Money.
Yes, and if he finds, you see, there are a lot of all manner of people in prison, all manner of people, rich, poor, all manner of people there. And so it's an opportunity for some of them to enrich themselves, you know. So I think there's supposed to be a rejigging, a overhauling of the entire correctional facilities. You know, the current Controller General of Prisons is trying to do that, where the prison will not just look like, where you have modern facilities. Like they have one in Kano. In fact, they are trying to say they want to have those kind of facilities in each of the geopolitical zones. So that with CCTV, with everything, you know, at least I follow them to the one in Kano. And if they can have those kind of prison facilities, not the one we have right now. The ones we have right now is a total aberration of human rights. It's an abuse, and it does not. And that's why you can see all manner of transactions. It does not. There are a lot of people who are in prisons who are still controlling things outside the prison walls, outside the walls of the prison. And I think that's exactly what he was trying to say.
Okay, let's, as a civil society chieftain, the issue of Simon Ekpa has come up. To say that he has been orchestrating things from Finland and so causing serious issues in the southeast. For you, do you think the Nigerian government has done enough? Because the army chief was saying we should liaise with Finland to see how he can be brought back home to face the law. And
the truth of the matter is that some of these issues that were discussed in public were actually supposed to be
in private.
And so even the media, in trying to amplify the discussion, may not be, because if you are trying to repatriate a man and you're already giving him these hints, I think that's why most times when the National Assembly invites these service chiefs, they try to shy away from it, because it's like trying to put them on the spot. And it's all about trying to impress them. I'm sure we need to rejig how we even, our intelligence gathering procedure in terms of what we want to do as a, because most times you see, and that was very, very, very common in the previous administration, we try to put everything in public space, sometimes as a way of trying to pacify the people, to make it look like we are working. I'm sure what the military should do, or what the security chiefs should do, is to work more behind the scene and see how some of these things can be resolved. We want to hear that, instead of saying they should, we should hear that Simon Ekpa has been brought back to the country to face charges in that regard.
All right, the issue of sensitizing the public, which you know how to do very well as a civil society organization, for citizens to come out and inform the security agencies about what is playing out. Like when I visited Vietnam, once you get into any province and you have to stay in a hotel, once they take your passport, they immediately, you're reported to the police. The police knows you are in that vicinity. And that's what the army chief is saying, that you go to Niger, the same thing. You have to report in 10 minutes, the gendarme knows a visitor is in this locality. Why are we not succeeding as Nigerians to do that? Could we say the security agencies themselves are not trustworthy?
Like I said, there's a lot of compromise. That's one. And then Nigeria, we are very laid back in terms of
citizen participation?
Yes, in terms of actually holding people accountable, in trying to really, it's only in Nigeria that a white man will come or a foreigner will come and will begin to behave like an indigene and even have more authority, more power than the indigenes. It's only in Nigeria that those things happen. It's in this country where you see people come from other countries and they even do and take over. And even the citizens themselves will begin to even give support to such a person more than the Nigerians themselves. And so those are some of the challenges that we face. And I believe that it's not as if they are not getting all these facts. It's not as if when you get into Nigeria now as a foreigner, we don't know. Our borders are not that porous. But there's a lot of compromise in the process. There's a lot of things that we take for granted. You know, we don't follow through to ensure that, just like what you're saying, just Cameroon here, you can't try it. The gendarmes will come after you. Ghana, you can't try it. Once you are there, you would know that you are a foreigner, no matter how hard you try to hide yourself. But here, we throw caution to the wind. We even try to tell them how they can go about manipulating the process and all that. So I think there's supposed to be citizen action in terms of reporting, how to filter information, how to give feedback, how to observe, how does it work. And some of these things, they are not rocket science. It is out of the abundance of what we have put down that we can begin to get results in that direction. So if we are thinking that it will just happen, it will not just happen. It will not just happen. Everybody, all hands must be on deck for us to be able to move this country forward.
All right, let's look at these revelations. Even we had the police chief, Nick, that's talking about the IGP Kayode Egbertukun, who said the issue of the ratio of the Nigerian, according to UN ratio, which is 1 to 400 citizens, but Nigeria we're talking about 1 to 1,000. He talked about lack of manpower, equipment, training. For you, do you think these details that have been given to the lawmakers, how useful do you think it's going to be? Do you think they're going to use it for the right thing, and do you expect action from all this very, very deep, you know?
Now, you know, the truth of the matter is that the police is actually the major security architecture of any country. The police. I'm happy with the IG, with the IGP.
Why?
First, he has asked that all police officers with dignitaries, okay, who are doing security jobs for dignitaries should be withdrawn. And I'm sure that must have been done, because I see that a lot of people do not really carry police around, because that already takes away almost more than 50% of our policemen. They go to bodyguard these dignitaries,
okay,
these high-profile people, and they now leave the rest of us to suffer. Are you getting me? House of Rep members, you see House of Rep member having like 10 policemen, 5 policemen. Doing what? With what? You see people carrying police, even individuals who can afford them now take police along with them. It's not supposed to be like that. The police is overly stretched. The Nigerian police is overly stretched. And there are other components, like we are talking about the civil defense and all that. There are other, you know, that we need to. I think there's supposed to be mass recruitment in the police force. Okay. But you see, that too has a problem. The problem is the police, the ones who are serving right now, what is their welfare package like? What's the motivation? How are they motivated to be able to do the job patriotically, to be able to be patriotic in their job, in their position? So it's not just recruiting people, not just saying, how are the ones who we have, are they faring well? Can you guarantee the welfare and security of the average police officer? Can you say that the police is happy with his job? Is the policeman happy to be a policeman? So those are some of the issues that we have to look at. We need to work on all this, because you cannot ask a man to come and guide you when the man is not guaranteed of his welfare. He's not sure whether the money will be able to pay his rent, pay his school fees, his children's school fees. You see, this is where the compromise comes in. So the policeman is more concerned about standing on the road to take 20 naira, 30 naira, 1,000 and all that, and put together to be able to meet up with his needs. So these are some of the issues that we need to really look at beyond just the numbers. We need to think about the welfare of the police officers, because if you have the numbers and they are not effective, they are not efficient, then of what value is it? It's as good as not having them in the first place.
Okay, on the final take, let's look at, with this, do you think the service chiefs will now say, okay, now we've put out what our challenges are, while insecurity is not ending anytime soon. If we don't get X, Y, of all this we've said, then most likely we shouldn't expect anything from them, because obviously, for instance, the Air Vice Marshal Hassan Abubakar, who is the Chief of Air Staff, made mention of two key things. He said the aviation fuel, the budget for aviation fuel, according to the Nigerian government, is put at 360 naira per litre, but now it goes for 1,150 naira. It's a very sharp difference. He also complained about our borders with Niger, Chad, Cameroon, Benin Republic, that they are loosely, they span up to 4,000 kilometers. They are loosely and poorly manned. With these two issues already, does this tell us that we're fighting a loose war already? Because if the borders are already loosely manned and poorly manned, and the air chief is saying, you give us 360 naira per litre, meanwhile it's 1,150 naira per litre. Are we playing?
I'm sure this has actually further exposed the challenges that the current managers of our security architecture are facing. And I'm also hoping that the current administration will swiftly move in to see how they can actually look at these things head on and try to see, because if you give a man a job to do and the man is not well armed, invariably at the end you can't hold him accountable. So I'm sure that now that they have brought their challenges forward, these are some of the challenges that were mentioned in the previous administration, and they are still lingering. So we are expecting that there's going to be a change in terms of the operations, in terms of the management of the resources.
But
Okay. And then again, beyond all that, there's need for a synergy, which is lacking between all the military chiefs, all the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, the police, even the immigration, all these things, paramilitaries. There has to be synergy. There has to be synergy. I remember when I traveled to Zamfara, when there was that banditry at the peak of the banditry.
At the peak of the banditry.
Something happened. The Air Force guy was complaining that there's no synergy. There's no synergy between the operations of all of them that are there. Everybody's trying to outsmart the other. So the Army is working separately, the Navy is working separately, the Air Force is working. Where you can cordon these people and put when they even call on them, there will be no action. So I think beyond all the challenges, the first thing this people must learn is to share information and synergize immediately to take action. Not that the Army will want to do their thing, the Navy will want to do their thing, the Air Force will want. No. There has to be synergy. There has to be synergy.
So can we say probably the synergy amongst the top level echelon of these armed forces, but when it comes to the ground forces,
when it comes to practice,
because those are the top, they synergize because the funds, they want to get these funds in large quantity. But when it comes to
that, synergy must be seen from the grassroots. We can't sit at the top. It's not where they pop champagne and share coffees and all that. No, it has to be in the field. We must see that, for instance, if the artillery are moving in on bandits, for instance, and they know that, they are trying to be overpowered, the next thing to do is to call on what? The airstrikes, so that they can move in immediately. If it's an area where it is waterlogged, you call in the Navy to cut down at the same time. So these things, they have to be this level of synergy for these things to work. If there is no synergy, you discover that every man will try to outdo each other. In fact, there are cases where there have been clashes between these security forces, and you see the Army will say, no, it is our place. The Navy, no, it's not supposed to be like that. They are supposed to overlap each other and work together to ensure that security is every man's business.
All right, well said. Security is every man's business, according to the president of civil society groups for good governance, in the person of Chief Ogaku Dominic. Thank you very much for joining me in the studios and sharing your thoughts as regards the fallout from the interface between the House of Rep members and the service chiefs.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure having you in the studio.
Thank you, Momodu.
All right, we'll go for another quick break. When we return from this break, we'll be calling it a wrap from the Global Morning Show, where today it's been exciting getting all the fine minds in the African continent, just so that you get well informed. We'll go for a quick break. When we return, my next guest will be joining me in the studios. Stay with us.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASI strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
the legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASI strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
the legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
All right, welcome back from the break. You're still watching Africa's finest breakfast show, Global Morning. And this time we've got another guest in the studio. He's no other person but Barrister Oche Emmanuel, who is a legal practitioner, like you already know, and a public affairs analyst joining us in the studio live. Nice to have you in the studio.
Thank you so much, and good morning, Nigeria.
All right, we'll be looking at some of the revelations from the service chiefs when they interfaced with the House of Rep yesterday, and the judiciary, which is your main forte, was called into question. They said the delay of prosecution of terrorists and also the easy release of insurgents by the judiciary has made the fight against insurgency really very difficult. As someone who is in that sector, why is it difficult for these terrorists who already were caught? Why is it hard for the lawyers, the judges to prosecute such person, the prosecutors?
Well, thank you so much. It's not that it's hard, but you know, in our criminal justice system, evidence is the end of all arguments. And if you are not able to prove your evidence against a suspect, the court will not on her own, sumo motu, give judgment in favor of the government that brought such person before the court. The court will rely solely on the preponderance of evidence. And if you are not able to navigate this evidence, prove them to the extent that the court will have to place them on the way of balance and also look at the situation and the existing law and then give judgment in accordance with the offense committed, then it is not the fault of the court, because the court is there to serve every person. Having said that, let me commend the courage from the chief of defense staff. I'm really encouraged, and that is what every Nigerian should do. If you are not comfortable with the services delivered by any institution of government, you should have the courage to speak out. These are not the best times for judiciary in Nigeria. Going by
what is happening in Osun, Osun State also.
Osun, the CJ, and then...
not to derail from what we were talking about, for that case of what's your take as regards what really happened, would you say Justice David Afolabi was right turning down that offer? And
I would,
for the sake of the NJC.
Not just for the sake of NJC. There is a normal procedure for removing a CJ in every state. I would rather describe what happened in Oshu as a fallout of executive recklessness. The governor and the so-called executive in the state have no business.
The state assembly.
Yeah, have no business interfering with the judiciary. This is an entirely different arm of the government, and they have been separated from each other. Okay. And of course, if there's any issue regarding appointment and discipline of any erring officer in the judiciary, the National Judicial Commission is there, and they are the body entitled, empowered, empaneled by the laws of this country to so take such decisions in or against, in favor or against any judicial officers. So I'm appalled.
But why didn't the NJC come out to make a statement? Because they practically didn't, they were just quiet. Even
no, they did. The NBA even did. I read the NBA did. The NBA president 72 hours. Of course, it should be after, because they couldn't have preempted the action of the governor or whosoever, or the National State House of Assembly. They couldn't have preempted. They would have to wait to see what they want to do. Whatever they say before then is just cautionary. But that they have done it simply means they are fell foul of the law. And then the NBA, the NJC all came out. And I think they are trying to correct themselves. And the judiciary in Osun need to rejig herself so that they can stand independently, not minding whose horse is God.
All right, getting back to the fallout yesterday, easy release of insurgents. Should they be easy? Why should they make it? Because the chief of defense staff said at times they arrest these persons, and before they get into their car, this person is released, so endangers their lives. So why is it still based on evidence too? Because these are already. It doesn't mean you don't trust the Nigerian army when they say this person is a terrorist.
No, it's not a matter of trust, it's a matter of proof. We are dealing with the law. And like I said earlier, our criminal justice system is based on the preponderance of evidence. And where you are not able to prove your evidence beyond reasonable doubt when it comes to criminal matter, then you may not expect the kind of justice. Of course, justice is not celebrated in camera. It's not in media. It's not on social platforms. Justice is what the court knows and says. And if you are not able to put your evidence together against a suspect, because even if you catch a Boko Haram member killing or in the act, you cannot still just on your own pronounce him guilty. He is still called a suspect. He's a suspect until he is proven otherwise. That is what the law of the land says.
But what kind of evidence can the Nigerian army bring when these people are in action? They are caught killing. Are they supposed to video this?
You need to prove beyond. You need to prove beyond reasonable fact that one, that this person was caught in the act. He was caught with XYZ. He was in the course of doing XYZ. I mean, there should be evidence, there should be proof, there should be witnesses. I mean, once that is done, of course, the law regulating terrorism in this country needs to be reviewed. That I agree. And of course, I also sympathize with the security agents in the country. Yes, our courts have not been able to take proactive measures. In fact, the Ministry of Justice and the judicial system in the country have not been able to take proactive measures to come out with very effective laws that will take care of terrorism in the country. Because whether we like it or not, the idea of the criminal aspect of terrorism just became our own undoing recently. So we are still trying to battle with it using our legal frameworks. Now, you wouldn't blame the court. You will blame those who are prosecuting, the police, and those who are prosecuting the suspects. If they are not able to prove their case, there's nothing the court can do. The court, like you know, their hands are tied, and they can neither shift this way or the other way, because they are laid down procedure for prosecuting and arriving at judgment for suspects who are associated with terrorism.
Okay, let's look at, there's a man called Simon Ekpa, who the security agencies say have been causing problems in the southeast. Would you say, probably because now the Nigerian army is saying the Nigerian government should be act fast to see how they can liaise with Finland to get this man brought back to the country to face the full wrath of the law. Why is that not happening?
I'm also surprised that, despite the fact that we have good relationship with the embassy of Finland and the country generally. We've not been able to have the man repatriated back home. His comments, his statements are very dangerous to the peaceful, the harmonious living in Nigeria. Ekpa and Nnamdi Kanu, as it were in this business of inciting our brothers in the Southeast to engage in insurrection, destruction, and attacking government facilities. Nnamdi Kanu is cooling behind the bars now. And we can tell to a reasonable extent that his followers are already seeing that as a possible government influence on anyone who decides to do otherwise. Simon Ekpa, by all means, as we speak, should have been in Nigeria to face the wrath of the law. The Finland government cannot continue to harbor such a person, because as far as we are concerned, he has committed very heinous offenses against the state. He has incited Nigerians against the state. He has also supported, imported.
Too, like
of course. Members of his group have come out to say openly that he has sent weapons to them. He has supported them with funds, and of course, he's not hiding it in the open, in the print media, in the social media. We've seen him, we heard him spoke, and he has not hidden the fact that he is the brain and one of the major sponsors behind the group destroying and attacking government facilities and killing lives, maiming Nigerians in the Southeast. And who knows, if this is not curtailed, they may spray around other regions, and that could lead to very serious collateral damage for the country.
Okay, let's looking at this terrorist again. Let's just go back to the terrorists who are still not prosecuted. What could be another way of getting justice as regards this terrorist?
What I think Nigeria or the judiciary should do is to have a special court for terrorism. That will expedite judgment for them. That will also give our lawyers the opportunity of having to put themselves together, because it's a special court that is primarily empaneled to deal with terrorism and such criminal acts. Don't forget that we now have different arms of terrorism, banditry, kidnapping. All of these are dangerous crimes against the state, not just attacking facilities in the country. So there should be a special court to try this sect of criminals, so that we don't have to put them in the common court where Nigerians will besiege the court to demonstrate, to protest. It's not part of the kind of democracy that we should allow in this country, because once you're a terrorist, once you have been seen in the act of terrorism, the law should not be lenient to you.
All right, let's wrap up our conversation with just swaying away from terrorism. 3 opposition governors taken out by the court, and the last one we just heard from, the one about Abba Yusuf Kanu, they are saying typographical error was why the ruling or the judgment. Is the judiciary on purpose being messy when it wants to be messy? Not delivering judgment? And do you think they're beginning to take the mandate of Nigerians?
Well, first of all, as a lawyer, I'm a bit uncomfortable with the fact that the court has suddenly become the organ of the government that is declaring contestants in elections. It's not proper. Power should come from the people. Power should come from the electorate and not from the court. That's one part of it. And secondly, like I said earlier, this is not the best of time for the judiciary. In the case of Kano State, I am concerned and really very worried that I read on the papers that the CTC of the judgment shows that Abba Yusuf actually won the election. But from the reading of the judgment, it was said that Gawuna, the APC candidate, so it's a very confusing situation, and the judiciary must sit up. Because
so in that case, in this kind of particular case, what should be the right thing? Who should we follow now?
We should follow what is in the document, because document is evidential, and evidence is the end of all argument.
Abba Yusuf
if that is what is in the document, I have not laid my hands on it. I've not seen the CTC, but that's what I read in the papers this morning.
So the CTC
and if that is it, yes, of course, it's sacrosanct. It's sacrosanct because that is a certified true copy of a document, and that document must be read properly. If it has not been read properly by the judge that delivered that judgment, it is on his own error. And
so who should be held responsible?
Of course, the reader of that judgment, the judge, our learned justice who read that should be held responsible for that.
So can he be sent to jail?
Well, of course, he can. It's not above the law. He can. He can. He or she can. It's not above the law. If you are asked to read something and you read something differently, it simply means you want to mislead the public. But for us, we do not know. Like I said earlier, I have not laid my hands on the copy of the judgment, and so I may not be able to speak as a fact. But based on what we've read and seen, if that is true, then what is on the judgment, what is on the document is what the law will rely on.
So, do we see this being taken elsewhere? This case, the way it is now.
Of course, of course. Abba Yusuf will have to. Of course, he has the right to apply to the Superior Court, the Supreme Court in this case. And if it is true, then I will rather ask that. Our Lord Justices are human beings. Sometimes they get tired. Sometimes they overwork themselves. And so it could be excused. Maybe in the course of reading the judgment, he or she was tired and needed to have some glass of water. So it could be excused. And it shouldn't be an issue to panic about. So let's leave it at that.
All right. So on that very interesting note, we're going to call it a wrap for Nigeria's Finance Breakfast Show, Global Morning. I want to say a big thank you, Chairman. Always a pleasure to have you. I hope you honor our next invite.
All the time. My pleasure.
All right. So that's how we call it a wrap on Africa's Finest Breakfast Show, Global Morning on Global Television. My name is Anthony Momodi. It's been a pleasure being with you this morning. I wish you the very best of today, and we urge you to make Nigeria great again. Good morning, Nigeria.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
The struggle, the access strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.